Good Saturday morning, friends. Mark Holmes here, of course, with my buddy Cowboy Joe Boo, as well as Joe Bear in the house. And as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally doesn't work. Let's get on. Let's wake up the football guys here on this Saturday. Wow. You know what? I think I got it out of my system. I am okay today. Yesterday was Freak Out Friday. It was Freak Out Friday. The Cowboys, unfortunately, since the bye week, have gone 1-3. Yeah, 1-3. It hasn't been a good November. It's a November to remember. This was definitely a no-nut November for the Dallas Cowboys. Because, buddy, we're a squirrel just trying to get a nut right now. But we're heading into December. Our next game will be in December. And let's see if the Cowboys can turn it around. There's so much doom and gloom that's going on at the Cowboys. The Cowboys, they're frauds. They're done. In fact, I tell you what I'm going to do. I want to play a little clip here from Get Up, who this was just from yesterday, talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Is it time to panic?
Today they was without two of their top guys on offense, Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb. And Dak did play his best game yesterday than he did in his previous two losses. So I think they have a chance to bounce back in that fashion. And, when you look at a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last year, who was sitting at 7-5, and then went on a run, late in the season, it is.
Where did you hear that from before? I think I was talking about them actually getting blown out by New Orleans in November. I mean, blown out. I think 38-3. But go on.
It's time for the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I do say this: they do have to find a couple games. They do have to win a couple games over the next couple weeks in order to get on that win streak and feel good going into the playoffs. But they're still in the NFC East. It's not the strongest division. So, while they got to get healthy, get some guys back into the lineup. At the receiver position, I think more importantly, cut down on the penalties. They do have an opportunity to go on the win streak and peak at the right time. So, but it has to start next week. So, they're in a position, but they can't lose any more games moving forward.
So, Mike, I disagree with you here. I think it's at least time to kind of panic, not full-blown panic, because of who they lost to. I understand the Tampa comparison last year. Tampa, was a mediocre team until the bye, but they weren't losing to bad teams other than the Bears. They lost to the Saints a couple times. They lost to the Chiefs, and then after the bye, they get hot. The Cowboys lost to a Broncos team that had lost 4 of 5 going into the Cowboys game. They then lost to a Raiders team that looked dead in the water. And I understand they're dealing with injuries, but so is half the league. And I feel like every year the Cowboys underachieve or don't get to where we think they should. We say, well, the injuries. Now, last year's different. You lose your quarterback for the season. Nobody overcomes that unless you're the 2000 St. Louis Rams. Everybody, if you lose your quarterback for the season, you're cooked, basically. I guess the Eagles a few years ago would throw a wrench in that as well, but typically. But you're without your top 2 receivers. But they didn't lose that game because of their offense. They lost that game because the defense all of a sudden looked a lot like the defense of last year. And poor Anthony Brown had a Thanksgiving to forget. I understand that the referees, were maybe the biggest losers of that game. But 4 pass interference penalties, all on third downs, just a killer for Dallas. But Broussard, this was supposed to be the year Dallas breaks their quarter-century streak of not winning a Super Bowl, not making a Super Bowl, just being a game away from being a game away, making an.
Okay, so enough of that right now. So I don't know where this was supposed to be the year after we came off of a 6-10 finish last year, an abysmal season. How now that this year was supposed to be the year, but I want to address actually a couple of things here because. And I agree. The Cowboys, we looked bad the last couple of weeks, but you guys know that I am the glass half full guy and is going to look at the positive sides of this. I want you to think about this for a second here. problems-wise. Now we still scored 33 points, more than our average. But I want you to take a look at this for a second. I just want you to think about this. Right now, Zeke Elliott, Friday, clearly Zeke Elliott is not in the same place that he should be. Zeke Elliott rushed for 25 yards, 2.8 yards a carry. He is right now running on one leg, and we've now talked about him actually being sat down because he probably shouldn't have been out there. That's one weapon right now that was not there for you. Now I want you to take a look at this here. This is the Dallas Cowboys stats. What you see here, CeeDee Lamb is our number one leading receiver with 740 yards. Amari Cooper, who had already missed one game, was at 583. Dalton Schultz, who's missed 3 games now, is your third leading receiver at 537. Your fourth leading receiver, because he had to take over for Michael Gallup being injured, is Cedric Wilson. So take away your top 3 targets right there. And then also take away Zeke Elliott because Zeke Elliott was injured. Of your top 6 players, you only had 2. Not the top 3, not a single one of your top 3. You were throwing to Cedric Wilson, and is Cedric Wilson a starter on other teams? Michael Gallup is, and Noah Brown. That's your receivers. And yet you still scored 33 points with play calling that was questionable and your offensive line coach being out with COVID and somebody having the bright idea that we're going to rotate offensive linemen, which is still insane. Let's take another look at, let's say hypothetically, that Tom Brady ended up losing the same guys. Your tight end, of course, Dalton Schultz is gone. So Rob Gronkowski, scratch him. Your number one receiver, scratch him. Okay, Chris Godwin. Scratch Mike Evans. But for the sake of argument, we'll keep Antonio Brown, okay, because we got rid of him. And your number one running back, scratch him as well. So that leaves you with Antonio Brown and Tyler Johnson. Let me ask you, how good do you think Tampa Bay would be with Antonio Brown, Tyler Johnson, and Cameron Brate as his offensive weapons? If you're going to tell me that they're going to be great, I'm going to call you a liar because that ain't a whole lot to work with. That's not. Now, on the defense, our defense, we found our Achilles heel, and that is speedy receivers. Our cornerbacks don't have the speed. They have the length, they have the aggression, but they don't have the speed to keep up with speedy receivers. But we have a cure for that. The cure for that is get to the quarterback's ass. Get to the quarterback's ass, bottom line. You've got one guy who's been getting to the quarterback, who's getting held. He's getting all the focus on the defense because they basically look and say, you got to stop Micah Parsons. So he's getting double teamed. He's getting held. They're rolling the blocking scheme towards him. Even with that, he is number 1 in tackles for loss, 14th in the NFL with 25 pressures, 10th in the NFL with sacks at 9, 38th at tackles with 64, and 6th with quarterback knockdowns with 11. He has been a one-man wrecking crew and has done an incredible job and should be talked about as Defensive Player of the Year. He has literally held the Dallas Cowboys defense together. But one player is not enough. And this is where the Cowboys can get back on track. Offense, they still scored a lot of points. They were slow getting there. We had issues there. We had some questionable play call. I get that. But the offense will be fine. Once you get Amari and CeeDee back, which will be back this week, Zeke needs that rest. On the defense, the problem is speedy receivers. Well, even with speedy receivers, you still have to have enough time to get to those speedy receivers. And that's where Randy Gregory, who has had 5 sacks this season, who is our number 2 defender on that line behind Micah Parsons, gets back this week. Yeah, Randy Gregory gets back. That's a help. And then add to that the alpha dog, DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, Lawrence may take a little time to get up to speed, may take him a week or 2 to get there, but that's more firepower. If you end up getting Randy Gregory out there, you get DeMarcus Lawrence, and let's say you put Micah Parsons, you have him now as a wild card. You put him outside D-Law. You get D-Law and Micah Parsons outside. I don't care what tackle and tight end you got right there, you got problems. Or you put them on the other side, coming off the edge behind, with Randy Gregory, doing stunts with them. Or you put them in the middle, have them rushing up the middle. I don't care where you put them. But with those other 2 playmakers out there, they can't solely focus on Micah Parsons. If he becomes the decoy, well, I guarantee if it's one-on-one with Randy Gregory, he's going to get there. And this is what's going to help the Dallas Cowboys get back on track, to help the secondary. If you think about the New York Giants back when they won their last couple of Super Bowls, their cornerbacks weren't exactly Hall of Famers. What they had was a get after the quarterback's ass defensive front. Strahan and crew. The quarterback didn't have enough time to get downfield, and thus you don't have to have lights out secondary if they don't have to hold up for more than 2 seconds. And that's where the Dallas Cowboys need to get back to. Cowboys, yeah, you know what? Everybody goes through a bad stretch. Pointed out last year, November was a November not to remember for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay had a terrible November. They were 7-5 going from that point, but got into a groove. And that's where the Cowboys have the opportunity, going against the Saints, getting back firepower, getting back Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb. Dak is still going to be able to hit those guys, and those guys will create a lot more separation than Noah Brown and Cedric Wilson and those guys. Relax. Take it easy. Take a deep breath. We'll be okay. Whew. Come tomorrow, we'll be watching the Giants versus the Eagles. And let me send a warning here to all you Eagle cockroaches. Because, see, I see, we've seen Brethren, the Atlanta Falcons fan. He's figured it's safe to come out because the Cowboys are 1-3 in the last 4 games. I've seen, actually, Harold, Eastside Harold has shown up here trying to mac on the girls and things. He figures it's safe to come out because the Cowboys are 1-3. And certainly I have seen tons of Eagle fans that have been coming out the woodwork because they've got the 2-game win streak and the Cowboys have lost. All I got to say is you better not lose to the Giants. You better not lose to the Giants. With all of the crap that you guys have been talking, it could get ugly. It could get ugly. So with that being said, I got work to do in the workshop and work to do. We are 2 weeks away from our tailgate at FedEx Field. I've got to get get parking passes and things like that together, figure out where we're having this thing, and get information to you guys that want to join us. Later on today, I'll have another post in the community tab about it and a link and things so that we can start getting this thing together. So with that being said, you know how we roll.
Our folks here, and as always, I want to thank you all for watching, commenting,